Please join me in welcoming Lynn Whitesell.
The hard part's done, managing the stairs. I am successful because of my behaviors. I don't want to include others in my development because doing so will only point out my weaknesses. Right? Executive coaching? Well, that's for leaders who are failing, not leaders who are succeeding like me. These are just a few of the limiting beliefs that have been shared with me during coaching with clients. And these limiting beliefs can also limit success. So how do we move from limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs? We're going to talk about that. But here's the real truth around those assumptions that I just shared. Sometimes success comes in spite of behaviors. But that kind of success doesn't last very long usually. Hey, you know what? Your weaknesses are already very apparent to others. Right? You're not hiding anything. They're apparent. They know. But making a sincere and transparent effort to do better, man, that can go a long way. That can be powerful, to be visible in doing that. And executive coaching, that's intended for all leaders who want to be more successful. So, how can we go from the limiting beliefs to the empowering beliefs? Well, we can start with executive coaching. Now, I know in the past, executive coaching was often considered a last-ditch effort to save a failing leader as we were marching them out. I've been an HR executive for years. We're going to send them to executive coaching, and they're going to get fixed or going to be out, and there's a 2-month clock on it, and that's how it's going to happen. Anybody remember that? Okay, but that's not the case anymore. And it's been happening over like the last decade. There's really been a change. And executive coaching is often for leaders, more often than not, who are succeeding. And it's incorporated into top talent programs and executive education, executive development programs, leadership programs, top emerging programs. It's part of the curriculum. And it doesn't have a 2-month clock. Often it has a 1 year and then continuing beyond that. So executive coaching is for leaders who are succeeding. So I want to talk a bit about this idea of the success delusion. Have you ever heard of that? What happens is the more successful we are, the more positive reinforcement we get, the more likely we are to suffer from what has been coined by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, the world's #1 executive coach, as the success delusion. And simply, here's what it is. I behave this way. I am successful. Therefore, I must be successful because I behave this way. And the more successful we become, the more we buy into the hype, the more delusional we may become. And what actually can happen is your career can derail. It can go off the track. You probably all have had that it person at work. By it person, I mean that person who's getting all of the plum assignments, the best projects, getting called into those important meetings that you wish you were a part of. What happens in those meetings anyway? Is it top secret? You know, those persons getting the quick promotions when you've been waiting. The one getting all of the conversation and the buzz, and you're just hearing about them, and they're being held up for you as an example of here's what a leader should be, and all the buzz. And then one day you realize there is no buzz. I haven't heard anything about this person or from this person in quite a while. Had that happen in your organization? Yes. So what happened to the it person? What happened? They probably fell prey to this success delusion. So how can we avoid falling prey to the success delusion? Well, that can begin with 360 feedback and executive coaching. How many of you have ever participated in 360 feedback? It's the first time you do it, it's kind of, whoa, I'm getting feedback. People are telling me things, and I don't like everything they're saying. And, when I work with leaders, I say you have to be courageous. You have to be brave. You have to be humble. And you have to have discipline. And furthermore, you have to get this kind of feedback. And it's not just going to happen organically, probably. People probably, especially today when we're not all in an office, we're spread out everywhere. People don't come up and say, hey, I got a little piece of feedback for you, and you're going to be excited about it. Probably not. And it just doesn't happen. So we have to ask for it. So in the 360 process, stakeholders such as bosses and peers and coworkers and employees give feedback on key leadership behaviors that have been determined by the company to be very important for success in the company. And that data are compiled, and then the report is shared out, often with the coach, with the leader. And the leader, sometimes they have really emotional reactions. I've worked with leaders who cry. Why? Because stakeholders' perspectives often usually differ from the leader's perspective, sometimes significantly. This is why it is so important that we go through this process, because otherwise we will never know that there are limiting behaviors that can cause us to fail, can cause us to go off the track, can cause us to begin that it person for whom there's no longer any buzz, and furthermore, they were invited to leave the company, you came to find out. They were terminated. Wow, what happened in that year between, this is an example, it's because they were not aware of the limiting behaviors that they had that were going to cause them to derail, and did. So 360 assessment, the feedback you get from that often provides a real stimulus for change. The leader says, these things that are pointed out as strong, that's great. This one I didn't know I was as strong in. I'm going to really use that. But these behaviors, this one or two behaviors, wow, I wasn't aware of this. And this really I want to be successful in my career. I wake up every single day and I want to be successful, don't you? I certainly do. I want to be successful every day. But I didn't know that I had a couple of behaviors that were going to cause me to not be successful. And now that I know that, I have a strong stimulus for change, and they come to you and want coaching. And there's a line of people who want your help. And what you do as a coach is you help them really hone in. What are the things, first of all, that you feel like you're going to get your biggest bang from the buck? And I'm going to help you determine that, because I can really help you with the contents of this 360 and help you understand the trends and patterns that are happening here. But you, leader, are going to have to decide, what are you really willing to do? What do you have energy to do? What do you know that you will stick with and do? And the coach is going to help you decide those one or two, just one or two. You can't do everything, one or two behaviors that you're going to work on to change. And the coach will actually also help you put into place a plan of action for how to make the change. So you're not left alone saying, oh, all these people told me this, I didn't know it. Gosh, it could cause me to derail. I want to be successful, but I don't know how to go about making this change. That's the role of the coach, is to help you decide how to go about making the change. And leaders who are really committed, leaders who are highly engaged, leaders who believe in the coaching, and I've had many of them, wow, what a transformation can be made there. I've really seen leaders turn into COOs who were, at that minute, the it person that may be sliding off track. So but it's up to the leader to do the work, to believe in it. And if they do, they make those long-term measurable change as a leader, not just for themselves, but also for their teams. And They help maximize leadership excellence and business results for their companies. So you probably came in here today and you were thinking, you may have seen the topic, and you said, how or why would anybody want to try to help a successful leader become even more successful? Shouldn't we focus on the ones who are failing? These successful leaders should just keep doing what they've been doing. It's working, right? Well, wrong. In today's competitive business environment, it's really, really important that leaders identify behaviors that could cause their careers to stall in the future. And that's the role of a 360 assessment and executive coaching, when assisted by qualified, certified, experienced coaches to help along in the process, can really make a big difference. I'll leave with one thought. My little 13-year-old nephew, Nicholas, as I was preparing to come here today, he said, Aunt Lynn, remind me again, what is it you do? You know, management consulting, a 13-year-old kid, they don't get it. They don't understand. So I thought, how can I simply explain to Nicholas? I said, Nicholas, what I do is I work with bosses to help them be better bosses so their companies can be even more successful. And he said, oh, cool. He got it. So that's what I do. So if you'd like to explore how you can become even more successful, I can be found at harriswhitesellconsulting.com. Thank you.